Hey there, everybody. Welcome to my new channel, Narratitation. I've got a passion for storytelling and scrolling through social media, and for puns as well, if you couldn't tell. If you love listening to narrated ridiculous stories on Reddit, this might just be the channel for you. Now, enough of the small talk. Let's get into the stories. This post is from Painsomnia. So I'm not entirely sure if this belongs here, but it's the best fit I can think of for a place to post this story. It literally just happened, LOL. I live in a ground floor apartment in the middle of my little town with a small courtyard at the back. There's a lovely set of glass sliding doors that open from the living room into said courtyard. And on the other side of the courtyard fence is a public footpath with a public car park behind it. It's lunchtime here at the moment, so there's a person walking past every 5 minutes or so. It's also useful to know, for context, that I'm physically disabled and use a walking stick. My genetic disorder, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, also makes me look significantly younger than I am. So despite being 31 years old, I'm often mistaken for a teenager, especially by Karens, for whom I seem to be a dang magnet. Anyway, on to the story. So I was sitting on my sofa watching TV and eating my lunch when I spotted one of those little black millipedes on the carpet. We get them a lot this time of year. So I used an empty muesli bar box to scoop it up and chuck it over the fence so that it hopefully won't come back into the apartment. No big deal, right? There was this Karen walking along the footpath, a fair way down from our fence, and she yelled something like, "I saw what you did." I didn't think she was barking at me since I hadn't done anything wrong or unusual, so I went back inside. She then appeared at our back gate, shouting at me for throwing rubbish over the fence and littering. I told her I'd thrown a millipede over the fence that I'd found on the carpet. She accused me of lying and said she'd seen me throw a box. I opened the fly screen and held up the empty muesli bar box and said, "You mean this one?" She froze and stammered a bit before saying, "Well, obviously, you threw something else then." Like I was being an idiot here? Lol. I said, "Then where is it?" And this lady actually started scouring the flower bed between the footpath and the car park for the imaginary rubbish she was adamant I'd thrown. I guess she found nothing she could reasonably accuse me of having thrown out there because she came back to the fence and barked, "If I ever catch you littering again, missy, you'll be dealing with the police." So I said, "Sure, I'd love to tell them about you harassing a disabled woman in her own home. We'll see how that goes for you." And she stormed off, LMAO. Can you just imagine chucking a little bug out of your house and then a lady comes up and she's like, I saw what you did. I'm going to call the police." And it's like, okay, you do that, lady trespassing on my property. That's great. Our next story is posted by Just Another Reddit Bro. And just for context, the writer explains that he's dyslexic, so there might be some mistakes that I'll correct while I go through and read. So I'm a manager at a restaurant in the UK. We're a fairly nice restaurant with some more expensive food than your average place. However, to be fair, the food is really good and it's all farm to table and locally sourced. Because of the higher price, I've had my fair share of entitled people and just general snobs. Now on to the story. Since the virus that shall not be named, we've been working differently to normal. Our staff has been cut in half, and so is the amount of people we can have in the restaurant at once. For safety, we spread the tables out a lot more now. Due to this, we just can't handle the same amount of booking that we're used to. So we've gone from averagely busy to a spike on weekends to poop hitting the fan almost every day, even more so since we have half the staff. So I've been left to run our last dinner shift before we go back into lockdown, and because of that fact, we're booked to the max with people wanting a last meal. My crew for the night was Jerry, our fresh-faced 17-year-old whose soul hasn't been crushed by the job, and Daisy. We are at almost peak of capacity and struggling. That's when it happened, or rather, they happened. I'm just taking the sweet couple's order when I see them stand by the sign waiting to be seated. So while this couple are just having a chat about what they think is tastiest, I turn to the party on the stairs and say, "I'll be with you in just a moment," with my biggest customer service smile. I proceed to answer a question or two the sweet couple has about the menu before they make their decision. This must have only taken at most a minute, maybe a minute and a half, after which I head to the stairs and this conversation happens. OP says, "Hi, how can I help you?" Guy on the stairs, "Huh, we've been waiting here for over 5 minutes, he says in an entitled tone. Now, I know how long he's been waiting, but from my experience, I just go with it and not question it so I don't have to deal with him for as long. I'm sorry about that, sir. I was just taking an order as you arrived. Guy, we have a table booked for 4 people. OP, okay, great. Can I have the name of that table? Why? OP replies, beginning to give up on humanity. Because I need to confirm it. Well, that's stupid. Why can't you just seat us? I'm sorry, but this is the way we operate, so we don't put someone else at your table. Fine. It's Mr. Entitled Arsehat. Ah, yes, great. If you'd just like to follow me this way. A thing to note is that we have a giant version of our menu near the entrance. This way I can let the guests look at the menu while I ask our waiters/waitresses to make sure their table is all ready. While Daisy goes to check, I take them through our menu and explain it's smaller than normal size because of the current state of the world and the less staff. But because there are less items available on the menu, we really hone in on the flavor and try to make the dishes as delicious as possible, and we change our menu daily. The entitled guy says, there's no lamb or steak. OP replies, unfortunately there is not. I'm sorry, but our 3 main dishes tonight are halibut, pheasant, and venison, and they're absolutely wonderful. I got to try some earlier and I was in food heaven. Entitled guy's wife, I'm a vegetarian. Is there a vegetarian main? OP replied, we don't really have a veggie main. However, we have 4 different starters that are veggie that can be made bigger, or you can do a tapas type of thing and get a range of them. The chefs also have an off-the-menu dish in case we have a vegetarian that isn't fond of what's on our menu, and I can check with them and see what it is for you. Entitled guy's wife says, that'd be great, thanks. Entitled guy, do they have something off the menu for me because I don't like this menu? OP replies, Not any of it? Entitled guy huffs. I hate fish, venison is too gamey, and pheasant is just awful. OP replies, I can check if they have some chicken or something left from lunch. Entitled guy says, why can't you just go to the butcher's and get some lamb or steak? Like it's not that hard and I'm paying good money for it, he says condescendingly. I'm just going to check with the chef and see what they have in the back. Yeah, you go do that. I led them to their table, then go to talk to the kitchen. However, I know exactly where this is going. You see, I've known these guys long enough to know their answer. I explain the story to the chefs. OP says, so what do you guys want to do? The chef replies, tell them to piss off and find somewhere else. That's the menu and what we have prepped. I'm happy to make her an off-the-menu veggie dish and even the chicken dish from lunch, but you can tell him to go F himself if he thinks we're going to go get him anything. I thank the kitchen for the almighty input and tell Daisy, thank goodness they're sat in their section and not mine. That's where I thought the story ended, but as it turns out, it wasn't. At the end of the shift, I asked Daisy and Jerry if they were okay. Jerry nods naively like this job will never crush him, and Daisy says, yeah, but that table was a nightmare. I'd forgotten about the table and asked for her to tell me all about the drama. Well, she went to the table and informed them that we had chicken, but can't go out and get off the menu items. He then proceeds to throw a wobbly. A wobbly like a tantrum? He then proceeds to throw a wobbly, which I'm assuming is a tantrum, and says he's appalled we won't go on a 5-minute walk to the shop and buy things for his dinner. Daisy, knowing a lost cause when she sees one, decides to go full customer service smile on him while giving it the full sass. Daisy replies, I'm sorry you don't like the menu, but that's what we have. We went off the menu and managed to get a veggie dish and a chicken dish added for you. Entitled guy replies, well, I don't like chicken or your menu, so what are you going to do? Daisy, nothing we can do, I'm afraid. You can either order or feel free to find another restaurant. I'd hurry, though, as I know everything is fully booked in the area, and I don't know if you'd get a table, my love. I know people, and I can get a table wherever I want. Okay, great. Well, have a good night. Daisy proceeds to leave the table to the shock of his wife and 2 other guests. He continues to rant that he's somebody in this town to the others and that he'll have his way. But after 5 minutes of her not acknowledging him, he leaves quite embarrassed and his wife apologizes to Daisy on the way out. Then came the best part. When telling the story, Jerry goes red like he's seen a ghost. I notice and ask why he looks uncomfortable. Jerry, being the bright-eyed, hope-filled youth, proceeds to tell me that as they were leaving, he then proceeded to give them a hearty customer service goodbye, shouting, "Thank you for coming! Have a good night!" We burst out laughing at his embarrassment. He sinks a little deeper into his chair. I can see in his eyes that some hope has faded. Poor, naive Jerry. The spirit of customer service is a cold woman, and she always gets you in the end. Our next story is from Pastel Lanner. For a little context, I was in the 6th grade and still am, very sensitive. My boyfriend and I had broken up a few weeks earlier because he wanted to be a rapper. It never happened. I was hanging out with some of my friends at the park, but the sun was starting to set, so I began riding my bike home. As I was passing by a house, I heard a woman scream my first and last name. Out of confusion, I stopped and looked around. I noticed a woman standing on the sidewalk and looked at her as she shrieks at me, "Get your butt over here!" I was confused but went over, a bit nervous. She then begins shouting at me, "You need to quit getting in entitled brat's business." At this point, I was on the verge of tears. I wasn't in her business, though. I rarely ever talked to her. She then snaps back at me, "Then how come your ex won't date her? You probably spread rumors about her, huh?" I began sobbing and started backing away. "I don't know what you're talking about." She seemed angered by this response and grabbed my wrist. "You need to quit being little B-word to my daughter. Don't ever talk to her or her friend again." After she let me go, I hopped on my bike and began riding home. As soon as I was out of sight of her, I let out loud sobs that I had held in. I finally got home and went inside, sobbing uncontrollably. Mom calmed me down and asked what happened. I could only muster out, "Entitled brat's mom called me a B-word." That was enough for my mom. As she got me in the truck and began driving over the speed limit to Entitled Mom's house. My mom got out and began walking towards the door at Entitled Mom's place. And my mom said, "You really want to call my daughter a B-word? B-word?" Entitled Mother's replied, "She was getting in my daughter's business." Just then, Entitled Mother's dad pulled up. Mom explained to him what was going on, and he looked at Entitled Mother and asked, "You going to fight? I didn't raise no wuss." Entitled Mom retreated into the house, and her dad apologized to my mom. My mom then got into the truck and drove me to the store to get a tub of strawberry ice cream. Well, OP, I'm glad that you got ice cream after that, because what a horrific experience. You're in the 6th grade, which is like 11 years old, and this woman starts screaming at you for sabotaging her child's romantic prospects in the 6th grade. Like, come on, lady. This isn't a Twilight Mother's convention. Like, let kids live their life and do what they want to do. How nuts is that? Our final story is from Sassy Lassie. Y'all enjoyed my other story, so I thought I would give you another. Here's some context. I'm from upstate New York, where we have lots of beautiful trees, but at this time of year, those beautiful trees have produced lots of fallen leaves. My family runs a leaf clearing business where we help clear, bag, and collect leaves from the roof to the ground. Today, we were clearing a property with 2 of us leaf blowing while another was doing roof and gutter work. The house next door had double the amount of leaves as the house we were working on, especially in the back. 10 minutes in, and the entitled neighbor appears, wildly waving her hands as if we were about to back into a baby. So the cast of this are the entitled neighbor, we'll call her Karen for short, family member number 1, family member number 2, and OP. Karen, emphasizing her words, "Excuse me, worker people." Family member number 1, put off by her rudeness, but being polite. Yes, you're Mrs. Karen, correct? Is everything okay?" Karen, putting on a fake smile. "Yes, I am. And no, I need you to move your cars. My son will be home soon, and I need to make sure he has room to pull in." Me, glancing over at the car backing onto her property. "Looks like a car just pulled in. Is that him?" Karen quickly looks over and drops the smile. "Look, I don't want any damage to occur if someone backs up and I need to leave in a bit, so just move the second one." Me, sighing, "Yes, ma'am." Karen looks smug as she watches me put down my backpack and move my car off the middle driveway space between her and the neighbor that wasn't blocking anyone, and put it in an area further down. After completing most of the front yard, we begin pushing the nice collection of leaves to the back to be pushed off a drop-off, and I see Karen approach family member number 2, who is putting away the gear from roof/gutter work and was preparing to join us in collecting leaves from the backyard. I was not there for this, but my family member number 2 told me the conversation. Karen: "Hello, you're all doing such a good job. Before I forget, nice neighbor told me you'd also blow out my back patio area since our house lines are so close. Make sure you completely clear out the fire pit and chairs, as I have company coming tonight." Family member number 2: "Oh, I wasn't made aware of this. Give me a moment to check in with nice neighbor and I'll flag my team over there." Karen, looking furious: "Excuse me? You think I'm a liar? They aren't home, but I will be sure to inform nice neighbor of your disrespect. Good luck getting them back next year." Family member number 2, not being born yesterday, but also wanting to call this lady out, fakes concern. "Oh, of course, ma'am. I'm so sorry for upsetting you. We will, of course, clear out your back patio." But Karen cutting him off and putting on another smug grin. "Make sure the deck gets cleared out, too. I'd better not see a single leaf." Karen turns to walk away, and family member number 2 follows up loudly as he is taking out his phone. "But I will call neighbor really quick. Since they forgot to tell me about your fire pit, I should double check if they may want us to clean out the stone wall and swing set area." Karen stops and whips around looking frantic. "What? No, you don't need to." Family member number 2, having dialed already, smiles as nice neighbor picks up and begins to converse cheerfully, watching Karen's face pale, then redden as she hears him mention her. Once he hangs up, he looks her dead in the eyes and says, "Thank you for reminding me. Turns out they did want the stone wall area done, but didn't seem to know about clearing your property at all." Karen, frustrated. "Well, you already blew a bunch of leaves onto my yard. You should at least remove them." Family member number 2 sarcastically, "Sure, we'll go grab those 20 leaves we blew over." Family member number 2 then bent over and began loudly counting the 20 leaves on her front lawn. Karen stomps back to her house, furious, and family member number 2 dropped a small handful of leaves he had collected and joined us, quickly telling of her scheme. We were sure to get every nook and cranny of that nice neighbor's yard, leaving not a single leaf. Our revenge. When we got to the hill drop, we would lean/grab on the trees for support to push the leaves as far down them as possible. 2 of the trees we leaned on still had leaves on them, barely holding on to the branches. Well, as fortune would have it, they hung over Karen's property, over her patio, with the fire pit. The trees dropped several small masses near her precious fire pit, and I would be lying if I said I didn't give the tree an extra shake when we finished. Enjoy cleaning your yard, Karen. That's Entitled People for you for today. If you like this content, please give me a subscribe and a like so you can be notified of more of this content in the future.